This week on Adventist News Network, the church's newest university invests in distance learning.
Why Adventists in South Sudan are broadcasting from a shipping container.
And a new web series retells a classic Ellen White book for a modern audience.
These stories and more coming up.
This is Adventist News Network, a service of the Seventh-day Adventist World Church. Thanks so much for joining us this week.
First in the news, an Adventist medical school in the U.S. state of Florida is the denomination's newest university. The rapidly growing Florida Hospital College of Health Sciences is now the Adventist University of Health Sciences. School administrators say the switch from college to university reflects a growing graduate degree program. The school offers advanced degrees in nurse anesthesia and occupational therapy and plans to add 4 more graduate programs. The addition of Adventist highlights the school's commitment to Christian mission. Church education leaders in North America say most of the school's recent growth stems from increased distance learning options. Just half of current students study on campus.
Adventists in South Sudan are launching a radio ministry. Lay leaders overseeing the project say traditional outreach is difficult in the country. Church media officials there have turned a shipping container into a makeshift studio. The situation isn't unusual. Infrastructure in South Sudan is limited, and shipping containers are regularly used as homes and offices. Entire hotel complexes in Juba are constructed of these large steel boxes. From the studio, Adventists in the region say they'll broadcast spiritual, health, family, and youth programming in local languages. The radio ministry is one of several projects that the church is using to help support development in the world's newest country.
Adventists just outside of London are raising awareness of a youth conference through community events. Youth ministry leaders from the Edmonton Church recently held a community football game. Players gathered at the local Adventist church afterward to watch a FIFA tournament, enjoy a meal, and socialize. Edmonton residents say the event provided a safe activity for local young people. The youth conference runs through September 23.
Adventists in Myanmar who belong to the Lisu ethnic group now have a permanent church to worship in. The Lisu in Mandalay first heard the Adventist message in 2007. With a population of 75 members, this community is the Adventist church's smallest in Myanmar. But church leaders in the country say the Lisu congregation is enthusiastic and growing. Korean educator Joseph Kang, who provided most of the funding for the new church, says the faithfulness of the Lisu Adventist community is an inspiration.
An intergalactic civil war shatters a peaceful society, and one woman is tasked with finding out why. If you think that sounds like the latest Hollywood blockbuster, you might be surprised. It's actually the plot of a new web series inspired by the great controversy called The Record Keeper.
I'm Raina. I'm sure you're wondering why you're here.
Kinda.
I've been asked to get an accurate recording of events. Since the displacement, there's been a lot of false information.
Displacement, that sounds almost clinical.
Administration has asked that an objective account be created.
Why?
I don't know why. That is my job. I want the truth from both of you. No opinions, just facts.
This whole thing is just a big misunderstanding. We're confident it'll work itself out. We figured if we came in together, we could show everyone that a compromise is possible.
Are you sure that is what you want?
Yes.
Who would like to begin?
The Record Keeper coincides with a worldwide distribution of church co-founder Ellen White's classic book. I sat down with producer Garrett Caldwell to learn more about the project. Garrett, thanks so much for speaking with us today.
Oh, it's a joy to be here.
Can you tell us about the audience that your production team has in mind for this project?
Absolutely. I think we have an audience in mind that we may not have a lot of traditional media for in the Adventist Church, a lot of witnessing tools. This gives us a chance to speak to someone who may be a little reluctant about some of the ordinary approaches that we take when we want to bring up a conversation about God, about things eternal. But that's what the great controversy is all about, the really big picture. So we wanted to talk about the big picture, but in a tangible way with characters that we could begin to really care about.
Now, The Record Keeper is a web series. Why was that format chosen to tell this story?
The web is such an exciting place. It allows you not only to consume media, but to have a conversation about media. So if you find media on the web, you can share it easily. You can say what you think about it. People can enter into a dialogue with you about it. So I think it's a very exciting context for this, and we'll be excited to see how people respond.
Where can our viewers learn more about it?
I would encourage people to look at the Facebook site because we'll keep things updated there. Eventually we'll have a full-blown website for the project, but the Facebook page right now is the place where they can get the information they need.
Great. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Coming up, we have a preview of the latest issue of Adventist Review.
Death is the only inescapable, unavoidable, sure thing. We are sentenced to die the day we're born.
Death is a debt we all must pay.
Some people are so afraid to die that they never begin to live.
Every man must do two things alone. He must do his own believing and his own dying.
Death is not a period, but a comma in the story of life.
He will wipe every tear from their eyes. There will be no more death or mourning or crying or pain, for the old order of things has passed away.
This week's Adventist Review is packed with information and inspiration. Lael Caesar has written a gripping cover story titled A Theology of Hazing. In it, he wonders about this hot topic, the persistence of the phenomenon of pain as privilege and victimization as validation. This is a timely article and a needed one, even in Adventist circles. In his editorial Holy Disagreements, Bill Knott addresses another current issue, the differences of opinion. Switching gears a bit, Sandra Blackmer shares what happened at the August 2012 NAD Teachers Convention in Nashville, Tennessee, in her feature Moving Hearts and Minds Upward. And Daryl Bigger brings us Memories and Lessons from September 11. Don't miss these articles or other standard features such as church trends, columns, and our bookmark book reviews. These articles and more are all in the September 13 Adventist Review. You can also find them by visiting www.adventistreview.org.
Church leaders say Ellen White was confident in her faith to the very end of her life. For many, the church co-founder's last words summed up her entire ministry. Cindy Touche reports.
A person's last words are very important to us. If the mind is still clear, we hope to find the summary of life's experience in their last words. What about Ellen White? What counted most in her scale of eternal values? In 1909, Ellen White preached what would be her last sermon at a general conference session. After encouraging those representatives from around the world to be faithful to God, that on that great day we might all be there together, she held out her Bible, and with arms that trembled with age, she said, "Brothers and sisters, I commend unto you this book." And in her last testimony, she wrote, "The Lord has given me a message for you, and not for you only, but also for other faithful souls who are troubled by doubts and fears regarding their acceptance by the Lord Jesus Christ. His word to you is Fear not, for I have redeemed you. I have called you by your name. You are mine. 13 months after writing this testimony, Ellen White neared the end of her life. For months, she'd been slowly slipping away. On July 9, 1915, with her son William at her bedside, she whispered her last words, "I know in whom I have believed." Because of Jesus, may you and I have the same assurance of our salvation.
For this week's Adventist Social Media Highlights, we asked Megan Bronner for a tutorial on the online bookmarking service, Pinterest.
This week, we're taking a look at the social image bookmarking website, Pinterest. The site launched as an invitation-only network in 2010. Pinterest got attention earlier this year when ComScore reported that it was the fastest site to reach 10 million unique users. Pinterest has the reputation of being women-friendly, with some reports saying that more than 80% of users in the United States are women. That statistic changes in Britain, where more than 50% of users are males in their 20s and 30s. So what is Pinterest really about? It's probably best to imagine it as a digital version of a bulletin board. Users find images they like, either on outside websites or on Pinterest, and then categorize them in custom groupings, called pinning to a board. Do you really love arts and crafts? You can find ideas from other Pinterest users and repin them to your own craft-themed board. You can also follow specific Pinterest users to see all their new pins. But don't think it's only do-it-yourself projects and recipes. You can find pretty much anything you're looking for on Pinterest, whether you love architecture, art, world travel, or technology. ANN Twitter follower Forrest Trace says Pinterest is great because it gives an ongoing profile of daily life in real time and actively portrays the true personality of our community. So if you already love Pinterest or you're trying it for the first time, we'd like to wish you happy pinning.
Adventist stewardship leaders publish Dynamic Steward magazine 4 times a year. This quarter's issue challenges readers to impact their communities through service. Larry Evans has more.
Is it possible to change our world? What do you think? You know, there will always be those who say we can't make a difference. But I like what Dee Hawk, the founder of the Visa card, once said. The future's not about logic and reason. It's about imagination, hope, and belief. If you are not a subscriber to the Dynamic Steward, I'm afraid you will miss out on some very important articles. For example, the interview with Dr. Ben Carson illustrates how personal obstacles are no excuse. We can make a difference. He challenges us to dream big, but you don't have to be a famous doctor to change the corner of the world in which you live. The dream of Andrew and Minnie McNeil revitalized their own community. You need to read their story. Amanda King in the young adult section challenges us all to build whatever service we offer to others, to do it with the principle of love for them. You know, this has got to be one of the most powerful issues of the Dynamic Steward that we've produced. Each of us is called to serve, and we invite you as stewards of God to go light your world. The subscription is free, and it will be sent to you electronically. Simply write to us at gcstewardship@gc.adventist.org. That's gcstewardship@gc.adventist.org.
Still ahead on Adventist News Network, young Adventists get an ultimate workout without ever setting foot in a gym.
But up next, this week's Tech Corner.
As I was reading through The Great Hope, this phrase caught my attention. He went singing on his way, his countenance lit up with joy and peace. His gaze was fixed upon Christ, and to him death had lost its terrors. And when I think of this, it just lets me know that no matter what I go through, that there's hope. That Jerome and Huss, they were actually been ready to be burnt to the stake. But he says that he just thought about Christ and how good Christ was, and all fear, everything went out of him, and all he could think about was the joy of Christ. So when I think of the problems that I have and I feel like giving up, that it lets me know that if God could get him through this, he could surely get me through my problems.
I know I'm looking for something. But what? Peace? Purpose? Meaning? I'm still not sure. But I know it's going to take faith.
Welcome back. Let's turn to Andrew King for this week's Tech Corner.
Are you interested in building a website for your church or ministry? Today, there are many different ways for you to technically build a website. You could create a Facebook page for your church, or you could use a service like WordPress.com, or you could even write code by hand for that perfect, tailored fit. But before you start building your site, take some time to think about what would be most useful for people actually using your site. Here are some items to consider. Who are you trying to communicate with on your website? Is it your members or maybe your potential visitors? Most people will say both, but make it clear who it is you are primarily trying to reach. Also, including good pictures. Don't simply put a photo of your church building. Also show people who actually go to your church. Show action pictures that show you working in the community, even pictures of your potluck. Finally, you want to keep your site updated regularly. So, what do you need to update? In addition to photos, think about most items that you would put in your weekly church bulletin. They would also be very interesting on your website. Posting announcements and special events can really help people who are looking at your website.
The church's television network is expanding its ministry to Eastern Europe and Africa.
As Hope Channel continues to grow, it's adding 2 new broadcast channels, Hope Channel Ukraine and Hope Channel Africa. Hope Channel Ukraine became a reality earlier this year after Ukrainian officials gave Hope Channel permission to broadcast in the former Soviet Republic. This historic move makes Hope Channel the first single point of view broadcaster in the Ukraine, and it allows Hope Channel to be legally carried by over 600 area cable networks that reach nearly 60% of the country's 45 million people. Hope Channel currently operates a Ukrainian and a Russian language studio in the capital city of Kiev and in 8 other cities around the country. The Ukraine now joins Germany and Canada in allowing Hope Channel to be the first single point of view broadcaster in their country. Broadcasting on Hope Channel Ukraine is expected to begin in November. The other new channel, Hope Channel Africa, will serve the needs of sub-Saharan Africa for those speaking indigenous languages. The channel is slated to start broadcasting this month in Swahili, Afrikaans, Zulu, and several other key languages, using programming produced in Kenya and in South Africa. Eventually, additional programming from other parts of the continent and in other languages will become available as the channel matures. For more details on this, as well as all the latest Hope Channel developments, check out our website at www.hopetv.org.
Maranatha Volunteers International is an Adventist supporting ministry that provides urgently needed churches and schools worldwide. This month's Maranatha feature highlights the thousands of volunteers who make sure new Adventists have places to worship and study.
This past summer, more than 600 volunteers stormed the mission field to build churches and schools, and most of the participants were under the age of 40. From the Summer Family Project to the Collegiate and Young Adult projects, several mission trips were designed to accommodate even the youngest volunteer. One specifically targeted program is the Ultimate Workout. In its 22nd year, the Ultimate Workout recruits teenagers to build churches and schools in developing nations. This year, volunteers traveled to remote locations in Nicaragua to build 16 churches in less than 2 weeks. On the other side of the globe, crews are wrapping up construction in Mozambique. Over the past 4 years, Maranatha has built nearly 800 structures in this southeastern African country, including hundreds of water wells. Even as Maranatha completes work in Mozambique, the organization is starting projects in new regions. Most recently, Maranatha has agreed to construct 50 buildings for a new elementary and secondary school at Valley View University in Ghana. The university currently serves 3,500 students, but there are no Adventist elementary, middle, or high schools in the area. In the United States, Maranatha designed and helped to construct a church for the New Albany Spanish congregation in Mississippi. The design includes a sanctuary, fellowship hall, and classrooms. The template will help to provide small North American congregations with a simple but efficient church building. To learn more about these projects and how you can help, visit maranatha.org.
When we come back after the break, the news you reported this week.
A day for me is coming in, writing stories, finishing a story, trying to get some news from overseas, maybe calling overseas to get some follow-up questions on that story. I meet with other people to discuss some new news coverage. I meet with our editorial coordinator who's writing stories or overseeing the script for the news segment of the television show, A&N Video. My name is Ansel Oliver and I'm the Assistant Communication Director for News.
I cannot imagine any kind of good program for this church without the support and participation of local church elders. They represent our local church leaders. I would like to invite each local elder to be involved in this project, not only in promoting and motivating people to be involved, but they need to be involved by themselves.
Welcome back. This week's iShare report comes from a small church in Puerto Rico. Members there recently distributed 15,000 copies of The Great Hope to their community.
The Toa Baja Church in Puerto Rico is a small church with a big vision. They want everyone in their community to have a copy of Ellen White's book, The Great Controversy. There were a few hiccups along the way. The day the books were supposed to come, only 500 were available. The church gathered together to pass out this small amount, along with a group from Frederick, Maryland in the United States. But the real work came the following weekend when 15,000 books came. The church members, from the youngest to the oldest, worked Friday night to package the book. Labels were put into each so recipients would know where they could get more information and also take Bible study classes. On Sabbath, members gathered together and all the books were passed out. What was most inspiring was the dedication and involvement of the church members in Puerto Rico. This church loves Christ, and they are excited to share Him with their community. The amount of people who show up every week to do outreach is incredible. As visitors, we kept saying, if this church, who only has 100 members, can do this much, what could the rest of our churches around the world do if they had the same commitment and excitement to share Christ with their communities?
If you have a story to share, visit news.adventist.org/iShare.
Adventist chaplains help thousands of church members worldwide adjust to life in the military, whether they volunteered for service or were drafted. Gary Council has this report.
Around the world, nearly 100 million men and women serve in the military forces of their nations. Only 55 nations have an all-volunteer armed forces. Thousands of Seventh-day Adventists serve in uniform, either involuntarily from conscription or by voluntary enlistment. According to the last official action by the denomination in 1972, military service is a matter of conscience and not a test of fellowship. Adventists face 4 potential conflicts with their faith while serving in the military: lifestyle, Sabbath observance, use of force, and diet. The presence of Adventist chaplains minimizes these conflicts and helps resolve issues over accommodation of religious practice. Through their ministry of presence, chaplains nurture the living, care for the dying, and honor the dead. They are courageous in spirit and compassionate in service. If you are called to such a ministry, are in good physical health, and prepared to go where the military goes, your ministry of presence is needed as a military chaplain. contact Adventist Chaplaincy Ministries for information about how you can qualify and serve in this vital ministry for your country and church.
Now let's turn to Benjamin Baker for a look at Adventist history. This week, a teenaged widow in Calcutta helped share the church's message in India.
Welcome to This Week in Adventist History. During this week in 1898, Noni Bala was baptized. Georgia Burgess, a missionary to India from the United States, gave Bible studies to Noni Bala, then a teenaged widow living in Calcutta. From these, Noni Bala accepted the Adventist message. Her father, a strict Hindu, was incensed over her conversion, kidnapping her and threatening to kill her if she refused to relinquish Christianity. But one midnight, Noni Bala bravely escaped his clutches and fled to the local SDA mission, where she obtained sanctuary. Baptized shortly after, Noni Bala went on to study medicine and operate several successful clinics in the U.S. Her conversion assured turn-of-the-century Adventists of the cross-cultural international appeal of their message. Today, there are over 1.5 million Seventh-day Adventists in India. On September 12, 1983, Lewis B. Reynolds died in Ontario, Canada. Born in 1917, Reynolds worked in the Seventh-day Adventist Church his entire career, serving variously as pastor, evangelist, chaplain, and administrator. He was a pioneer in that he was the first black editor of Message magazine and the first scriptwriter for the Breath of Life television series. Although he wrote several books, he is best known for We Have Tomorrow, a comprehensive history of black Seventh-day Adventism, published shortly after his death. And that's This Week in Adventist History.
Thanks for watching Adventist News Network. Join us next week for more news from the headquarters of the Seventh-day Adventist Church.
In the meantime, look for us on Facebook. You can connect with other Adventists worldwide and find links to all of our stories, photos, and videos. Just visit Facebook/Adventist News.
Our good news for this week comes from Matthew chapter 28. Beginning in verse 19, the passage says, "Therefore, go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, and teaching them to obey everything I've commanded you. And surely I am with you always, even unto the end of the world."
That's our show for this week. Don't forget, you can always visit news.adventist.org for daily news and videos. Until next time, God bless.